So I'm Sifu Slim, and I'm here with Dieter Runge, a man from Germany, and he's been in the United States since the late 70s. And he's been a rock and roll musician, he's been an artist, a Tai Chi teacher, and a number of other things. And he has a very limited idea of what my background and what I'm up to. So I think I'll bring Dieter up to speed. So I've been interested in physical movement since I was a little kid, and I've always found that it grounded me and it allowed me to function better, mind, body, and spirit. And when I didn't do it, which was very rare, I could easily, get too excited, get depressed, just the opposite of balance. Any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I like to move around too, and even like a lot of my art, I work standing up, but I like to work on bigger paintings and standing up, or printmaking, it's all standing up. And yes, as a kid, we kicked the soccer ball around every day. That's the sport in Germany in the 50s, of course, still. And later I did rowing, and then I got into sailing. And I did all of it competitively, rowing and sailing. And sailing is probably where I was the most successful. I went to several world championships and won many races and stuff. I didn't become world champion, but
you competed for world championships.
Yes, yes, and then even like as a rock and roll musician, I was in one of the first German punk rock bands, and then when I came to New York in band, we were always about moving too, and not just standing still and staring at our feet. And and then I got, even in New York as a rock and roller, I got into Tai Chi. And the first time when I started Tai Chi, I first started with meditation and Qigong exercise, but when I started Tai Chi, I felt this is what I've been looking for my whole life, kind of. I had never, before I went to New York, before I encountered it, I never really heard of it, I was a little bit familiar with some yoga and some Eastern philosophy before, Taoist and Zen and all that stuff. But yes, movement and balanced movement and movement with consciousness, I think is very central.
So I took up the writing of a book, and this book is called Sedentary Nation, and then the subtitle, the longer subtitles, The Answers Are Not Found in the New Millennium, they're in 1910. And the answer was that in the history of the world, we were always forced to move. If we had to get to work, we had to do it physically. If we were a farmer, we had to work physically. If we were a hunter-gatherer, we were out looking for food, water, wood, plants, etc. And we were nomadic many times. So we were always forced into movement. And then when the 20th century came around, and a little bit in the 19th century, there were many jobs where you didn't have to move. So if you had a shop right below your house, you could just go from the top area down to the bottom area. So that was book number one, and I really loved the history of it, and that was just what fascinated me. While I was writing that, an orthopedic surgeon says, for your next book, you've got to write one called The Aging Athlete, because it's a new field in orthopedic medicine. So I am wired for wellness. That's my number one thing I think about. What I'm putting into my body, how I'm moving it, how I'm sitting, the thoughts that are going through my mind, the emotions, etc. Wellness is my number one priority. And so these athletes, you would think that they are wired for wellness, because without wellness they can't compete, but they are generally wired for performance. And the more you can do it, the better it is for, unfortunately, that's how you win gold medals, is you have to have that right high peak performance state at the right peak performance time, and then you win the 100 meters or the gold medal in gymnastics. And so that's what this book is about. And then it also takes up what happens to these people as they age, what happens after their peak performance years are over. So now they're 40, 50, 60, 70, all the way up to 105. What happens to these people? And what I found, and I've interviewed over 1,000 people now, is that more than 90%, when they leave peak performance, they leave physicality, regular physicality, for the rest of their lives. And how unfortunate that is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, then, as far as I can gather, then they deteriorate quickly and deeply. And also, I mean, with that peak performance, Olympic level, or let's say NBA or soccer, professional or football, the way they're performing, they are also constantly hurting themselves.
Yes.
So
in training and in the games,
yes.
and then traveling all the time. If you're in a traveling sport, you're sitting in planes, buses, you're in hotels, you're not always, your own place is sometimes more comforting. So there's a constant discomfort which can lead to inflammation, lead to stress, which also leads transitions back into the game. So we recover less effectively many times, and we can get hurt more easily.
And also the philosophy of the no pain, no gain is very, very dangerous.
Yes, very dangerous. So I completed this book, and then a friend of mine said, I have the title for your next book. It's What Elite Athletes Wish Their Parents Had Told Them. Vital information for your junior athlete. Aha! A new field. So you don't try to teach the athlete who's 22 or 32 about how to live. You go to the young people where they're still receptive. And then how do you do that? How would you do it, first of all, before I share my thoughts?
Well, that depends on what position to the young person I am.
You're the father.
Parent or father or so. For my experience, and especially, the most things I practice, like Ayurveda and yoga and Tai Chi, they're Eastern based, and they are, from the Vedic philosophies or Taoist philosophies, and that is really ultimately all about balance. And this balance, as a parent, I have to demonstrate. It's like, be what you say, not just, say it.
Be the living proof.
Yes, be the living proof. That would be my approach. That I have to demonstrate that balance. That means, I can't be working 80 hours per week. I need to also have that balance of where I have my enjoyment and where I do my sports or my exercise. And recently I was listening to a feature on the 7 regions in the world where people are the happiest and get and grow the oldest, and mostly vegetarian diet, lots of beans, some meat, but lots of vegetarian diet, vertical living. They get up from the floor to standing like 30 times a day, and this is, I think, is just an amazing fact. We often do it none of us. If the bed is high, you just get out of bed, you're in sitting and standing position, and you're either sitting or standing the rest of your day. And sitting is now the new cigarette, We already
sitting
know
is the new smoking.
Yeah. And so vertical lifestyle, they also live like where they walk up and down the stairs a lot and stuff. And then multi-generational.
Living in the same proximity.
For 3 or 4 generations together, and having the contact between the older. And for us, it's everything in the late stages of advanced countries, everything is separation, but that's together. And then, and that plays into right in that, what we would consider exercise, they do for fun. So they play bocce or whatever it is. It's fun what they're doing, and that element has to be there. And that's why I think, I'm an incredible observer of humanity, and I go and I see all kind of people and all stuff, and I often go now, I love human beings. They are just so fun and they're so amazing to watch. But I see people who are exercise or run, and I used to, when I lived on the beach, before I lived on the beach in Kailua for 10 years, and I ran the entire beach like 5 times a week roughly. And I ended up after a while, and before I was running a lot on concrete too, and I did like half marathons and stuff. And eventually I ended up running barefoot, and I run on top of the beach where it's flat, where it's incredibly hard to run because you sink in deeper. but each step is different. And you have to focus, and my favorite was trail running too, like up and down and roots and rocks and stuff, where your awareness raises up another level because each step is different. But I drive my car along Caballero Avenue, which is just one block behind the beach, and there are all the people running. And half of them have like knee braces and this and that. And you see them running, and you look at the faces, and you know, see them running. First of all, they run really awkwardly. The faces are really tense, and I'm going,
It looks like hard work.
yes, you do not look like you're having fun. You look like being tortured. I don't think running is like the best. And basically everybody should have a coach who can see that and can help them. Because, you know, obviously they're putting out the effort, you know, but it could be, some person might be better off on a bike, you know, or swimming or something, you know. And so, yes, but however, as a teacher, I have to live what I'm teaching.
I agree with you. And you mentioned the word awareness. And so when I was completing this book, I sent one last email to a person who's featured in this book who's been doing yoga, hasn't missed one day of yoga since the middle of 1969. Whoa. And this person's now in his 70s. And so here you look at that and you say, is that a commitment or is it just lifestyle? Now we brush our teeth, we eat, we go to the bathroom, we get in and out of our house. There's so many things that are just normal parts of lifestyle. That's this person's normal lifestyle. The yoga is just something he cannot live without. And he said, I said, what's the message I should take to the coaches, the parents, the teachers, the mentors, and these junior athletes themselves? He said, it all comes down to awareness. So the athlete who is going into football, going into soccer, going into these high performance, high contact, dangerous sports, he said if you bring in the awareness, then they will be able to make their own decisions, even if they're 8 or 10. Absolutely. If you bring that awareness out, and he says that comes from yoga in his opinion, but it can come from Tai Chi and some other things as well. You bring that awareness out and that young person can make the proper decision. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you touching on like amazing things. Yes. Okay. To the yoga, I definitely want to know who that person is and read about him. The very first statement and rule in yoga is ahimsa, and that means non-violence. That's the very first thing, and that's different from our Western attitude, like no pain, no gain, and bite through it, or it's hurting a little, finish the game, blah, blah, blah. No. It's like non-violence, and that means primarily first against yourself. If you're treating yourself well, you have a loving relationship to yourself. You also won't be violent against other people. So that's the first thing, and that's when if there's something wrong, don't repeat it. Don't keep going and making the same thing, and then, I mean, people that are running with a knee brace and stuff, you know, yeah, that is violence. I see the violence, you know, and you see the violence in their face, you know, but they're unaware of it. They think they're doing the right thing, you know. Yes, and so this whole approach needs to be
re-examined
and changed and stuff, you know.